you guys remember last year we had the Abraham Accords, right? So Donald Trump managed to bring Bahrain and the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel, and he's such an amazing statesman and a diplomat. Now, these countries have been wanting to normalize ties for years with the Israelis, right? Saudi Arabia is likely next, because they've always had ties, under the table with the Israelis. And so the Abraham Accords, they just put the cards on the table. That was it. And just last week, as part of the Abraham Accords now, being fully implemented, and Bahrain and the UAE having stuck a knife in the back of the Palestinians and the Arabs, the Israeli foreign minister, or I should say the Israeli occupation minister, visited Bahrain. And people, here he is getting off the plane, right? Yep, it's real. It's real. And so that's just scandalous, honestly. That's just scandalous. And so people got angry, rightfully so. I want to show you the reaction from, because this is the government in Bahrain. But let's see what the people think of it. Not the government, the people, right?
ولا سهلا لا أهلا ولا سهلا هذا الكيان الغاصب كيان مجرم لا نعترف به لا دولة ولا غيره لا أهلا ولا سهلا بهذا الكيان المجرم التطبيع جريمة وخيانة عهدا لك لن نلين يا قبلة المسلمين يا قبلة المسلمين يا قبلة المسلمين عهدا لك لن نلين يا قبلة المسلمين.
That was great. So I'm going to translate what they're saying. They're saying la ahlan wa la sahlan, which means, when you say welcome in Arabic, you say ahlan wa sahlan. And so the negation of that, the opposite is as la ahlan wa la sahlan, you're not welcome. And they're saying that normalization, this with the criminal regime, they're against that and they reject it. So you can see them holding up the Palestinian flag in solidarity. And this is really important to understand, because when Bahrain normalized ties with the Israelis, the people don't accept this. With the Emirates, it's a bit more complicated because, I don't know if you guys know this, but 80% of the population in the UAE are not Arabs. They're actually foreigners from various countries, could be British, could be whatever. It's just there are a lot of expats, you have a lot of foreigners working there. And even then, among the Arabs, they don't accept this. But so, again, most of the population is not native in the UAE. But when it comes to Bahrain, the people don't accept this. Morocco, for example, has also, unfortunately established ties of some sort with the Israelis. People don't accept this, right? Sudan, they were forced into this. What happened to Sudan when they normalized ties or were coerced into establishing relations with the Israelis? The United States removed them from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. So do you understand what I'm telling you here? Apparently, in the United States, the criteria for being a state sponsor of terrorism is whether you have ties with Israel. Wow, that's really some telling criteria. So here, I just want to show you something from Morocco, for example. You can just look this up. This is from June, just a few months ago. Middle East Monitor. The headline says, Moroccans refuse to rent property to Israel liaison officer in Rabat. So, again, the people are against this, right? A number of Moroccans in the capital, in Rabat, have refused to rent their properties to Israel's chargé d'affaires, Govrin, forcing him to stay in a hotel. Forcing him to stay in a hotel since his appointment to the country. I mean, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, Moroccan A Sahifa website said the company charged with renting a residence for Govern had found an appropriate place for him in a residential complex in the prestigious Zaire Road in Rabat. But the apartment owners categorically refused to rent it to the Israeli diplomat as soon as they discovered his identity. That's brilliant. So, once again, you can see how the Arab people reject this. And I need to be very clear with something here. This is not something to do with being Arab. It's not something to do with being Muslim. This is about human rights. This is about anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism. The Israelis, they're in Palestine, they're in Lebanon, they're in Syria, occupying our land. And this is a settler colonial project created by white Europeans. Okay? You have British and French diplomats, who came, diplomats is really the wrong word, colonizers, who came and divided up the Middle East to their liking after World War I, and also devised a plan. The Balfour Declaration makes this very clear, to create a Zionist state in Palestine. This is not something, that is of the region. It was imposed on the region, just like many of the borders, The globe behind me, you go and look at many of the borders in Africa, many of the borders in the Middle East. Africans did not draw these borders. Arabs did not draw these borders. These are white European colonizers who drew these borders for us, right? Against our will. And they divided us based on sectarian lines on purpose, because they wanted to sow, they wanted to sow dissent. They wanted to sow discord. They wanted to create as many divisions as possible. And so the easiest way to divide and conquer is literally to divide and conquer based on sect. So you come to a place where there's, you don't have that many issues that stand out, but you come and amplify them. Right? So in a place where people were living in relative harmony, all of a sudden there's chaos. It's like Iraq. You look at Iraq after 2003, what happened? Suddenly you have a sectarian war. Okay, but there was no sectarian war. There was no violence on this scale before the invasion. Who came and imposed this and created this and helped this condition arise? American, British, colonizers, invaders, right? And so when they divided up the Middle East with Sykes-Picot at the end of World War I, once they used the Arabs to get rid of the Turkish, the Ottoman Empire, they carved everything up based on sectarian lines. And another thing that they did is they added the Zionist state, And I mean, again, when people stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, it's because we know what the Palestinians are going through, how they are suffering on a daily basis. They have been denied a state. They have been denied human rights. They have been denied freedom of movement, of assembly. They have been denied basic necessities, infrastructure, food, water, running water. They have been denied every single basic element to sustain a normal, happy life as a human being. All of it. They have been colonized. Their homes bulldozed in front of their fucking eyes. And this is protected and subsidized by the West. And so, once again, this is a human rights issue. It's an anti-colonial issue. It's a national liberation issue. Not just for the Palestinians. Again, for the Lebanese, for the Syrians as well. Shib'a Farms in Lebanon is under occupation. Lebanon was occupied for, a decade and a half by the Israelis, South Lebanon. And they still try to bomb it when they can. Although they've, since 2006, they haven't done that except once. But Syria, the Golan Heights are still under occupation, right? So all of these countries are under occupation, under control, in one form or another, by a European colonial settler project that is imposed on us almost a century ago, but which still has ramifications to this day. So again, it's an anti-colonial issue. It's a human rights issue. Let's be unequivocal about that. Unequivocal. And so you can see that the people, they don't tolerate this. You have a few corrupt traitors, which is what they are. They're traitors to the Palestinian cause. They're traitors to the liberation of the Levant, of the Middle East. They are traitors to the human rights of those who are occupied by the Israelis, who are normalizing ties with the Israelis. A few corrupt ministers, a few corrupt politicians, but they don't represent the will of the people. And you can see that so evidently. And I told you this when the Abraham Accords happened. I didn't need these videos. We didn't have these videos yet to even tell you this. I told you it's only a few people at the top who are doing this. The Al-Sha'ab, the people, they don't support this. Not at all. Not at all. And the same is in Jordan and Egypt, by the way. You know, Jordan and Egypt were also coerced in some ways, you know, through one form or another to establish ties with the Israelis, right? With the Americans pushing this. And to this day, I mean, you can go to Egypt, go to Jordan, ask any person in the street what they think of normalizing ties with the Israelis. Go ask them. I won't say anything. Go and ask them. See what they tell you. Pick any random person on the street. Anyone.